Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the next update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows. This is going to be my first update for 2023. I almost said 2023 then, but we are in 2023. I've been doing this project now for a month, or well, technically I've been doing this for like the last 5 years, but it's 5 years, I think so. But this round I've been doing for 1 month now. This year I have decided to do Laney's prompt from Makeup with Laney, and I will have her link down below. I love doing them. I mean, I only done them for a month, but it gives me some more freedom with my Pan Those eyeshadows, because before all I've done is randomized eyeshadows, so completely randomized from my spreadsheet, which has been so much fun. But I have a lot of eyeshadow projects going this year, and with my Pan Those eyeshadows now having a bit more kind of freedom, I can pick shadows to complement other eyeshadows that I'm panning, or just things that I want to work on and things that might not be as difficult as other things that might have been randomly selected. So if you don't know what Laney's prompts are, basically she created a Google spreadsheet with prompts. So she has two versions of the list. So the first list, which is the one I'm using, has a couple duplicate prompts. So for example, there's like, I think something you want to pan is in there a couple of times, something you don't want to pan is also in there a couple of times, and some things are just more likely to come in several times, whereas the other version of the spreadsheet has just every single prompt once. So once you get to prompts, so again, it could be anything from like something you want to pan, something you don't want to pan, an eyeshadow starting with S, it could be a blue shimmer, anything like that. You have to select an eyeshadow to correspond with that prompt, and then you're going to work on that. So that is how I'm selecting my eyeshadows this year, and I've been loving it again so far, and I'm excited to share with you my progress. But before I jump into that, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So before I actually start talking about the eyeshadows, I'm sorry if my voice is very hoarse or if I sound like I'm sick. I don't feel very sick anymore, but I'm still very congested. I have been having a cold for like the last week, and it just doesn't seem to want to go away yet. But luckily I feel fine, so it's just basically like how I sound. But yeah, I'm gonna jump into the first eyeshadow. Again, all of this has been in for 1 month because the introduction was last month. And the first eyeshadow that I rolled in comes from my Soft Glam palette from Anastasia. I decided to roll in the shade Rose Pink for the prompt something starting with R. So this eyeshadow looked like this at the introduction. It's kind of like more of a satiny shade. It's a beautiful kind of rosy shade. It's not too pink though. It's more of a neutral kind of pink. I mean, what I'm wearing today is obviously much brighter, but it was really beautiful to work on. And again, that is what it looked like last month, and this is where this eyeshadow is today. So hopefully you can see that I was able to hit pan on this eyeshadow. It took me 7 uses to hit pan, which is not a very high number, but the eyeshadow in here is a bit more powdery now. I think this is getting a little bit older, and also this formula in general. I feel like these shimmers here are more powdery than, for example, these two, and this is just one that is really powdery. Also, I already had a bit of a dip in this eyeshadow because I used it a bit before, but that is the first eyeshadow. I really loved working on this one. Yeah, it was really fun. I paired a lot with my Panda palette, which is the Nikki Tutorials palette from Beauty Bay. I topped this one off a lot with Roxy Catan, I think it was, and I love that pairing because this one gave a really nice base, but I do love a little bit of sparkle, so I topped that shade on top just to give a bit more, I don't know, something special. So that is the first eyeshadow, and again, I'm really happy that I was able to pan on it. The next eyeshadow is another that comes from a prompt with starting with a letter basically. So I rolled something in for the letter starting with S, and I decided to go with a shadow from my Love Notes palette, which is the eyeshadow Spark. So this is what Spark looked like last month. It's this beautiful purple shimmer. This one definitely has more shine and more shimmer to it than the one in the Soft Glam palette. So this one I used a lot on its own, and I have used this one again 7 times in the past month, and this is where I am today. So hopefully you can see there that I was able to pan on this eyeshadow as well. The Beauty Bay palettes are very shallow when it comes to the pan. They might look big, yeah, like the pans might look quite big, but they are very, very shallow, so they're quite easy to pan on, which is why I rolled in 2 palettes from Beauty Bay, because I wanted an easy start of the year. I love this palette a lot, and I have played around with it a little bit, working on this eyeshadow, but it's definitely one that I would consider rolling more shades in from throughout the year, especially now in the beginning of the year in spring, because I feel like this is a very winter and spring tone palette. And yeah, I love the formula of this shimmer. I feel like in this palette, like all of the shimmer shades are like that super high shine kind of shimmer. I feel like sometimes with the Beauty Bay formula you get some misses when it comes to the shimmer formula, but this one has really, really good ones. It is very light toned though, so I feel like if you have any deeper skin than me, maybe like just if you have like 1 or 2 shades deeper than me, you will get away with this palette. But it is mainly for light skin tones, but I do love this palette. It makes really effortless looks. It is super like natural if you want it to be, but you still have those kind of colorful undertones in here. And yeah, I just love this palette. So third up, like I mentioned, I did roll in a different Beauty Bay palette. So I rolled in the Book of Magic eyeshadow in Enchanted, and the prompt that I rolled this in for is shadow from your least favorite palette. And this is definitely one that has fallen like at the bottom of my palettes in my collection now, because I did do a declutter at the end of last year, and with the palettes that are still in my collection, this is definitely the one that falls at the bottom, just because it has a lot of deep shades. It is just not really my color story. I love the purples in here, which is one of the ones that I rolled in. And then Enchanted is this beautiful, like you see here, beautiful light toned pinky purple shade. And I use this a lot to blend out my purple looks, my pink looks, things like that. And I used this one 13 times, and that is where I am today. So we have another pan, and this one took me 13 uses. Again, very shallow pans. The mattes obviously usually take longer, at least for me, mattes take longer than shimmers to pan on. And it's not the biggest pan, but it is there. And I did really enjoy this eyeshadow. It was quite light though. It wasn't the most like, I don't know, it was just slightly too light I guess for what I wanted, but I did mix it with like this shadow here a little bit if I wanted a bit more color, or shadows from my Pan palette again. But yeah, I like this eyeshadow, and I have another pan in here now. This palette is starting to look a little bit more loud, which is nice. I do have 3 pans, but again, this is definitely a palette that I will consider rolling in again later in the year, because the palettes are quite easy to hit. But yeah, what I meant with like this is not my favorite palette is like it has like these really deep shades. Like you have this deep blue, this black, this deep purple. I do like this deep purple though, and it's just a lot of deepness. You also have these like turquoise shades, which aren't my favorites, and a lot of kind of blue. Also this shimmer here is very deep and something that I wouldn't really use very much. So yeah, it's not my favorite palette, but I'm still happy that I have it. And like this kind of purple corner here I do really like. So I mean I do like the neutrals too, but it's just like these bluish shades I guess, and the deep shades that I don't really fancy. So that is my Beauty Bay Book of Magic palette. Next up, we're moving back to Anastasia, and I rolled the shade in for my Sultry palette. I decided to pick the shade Fresh, which looks like this, for the prompt an everyday eyeshadow. And as you can see, this is just a light kind of skin tone shade, at least for me. And I don't set my eyeshadow primer, however I use these type of eyeshadows as blending out shades. I use one of those today because the shade I used in my crease is quite a vibrant eyeshadow, so I used a light shade like this to blend it out. But that is what this one looked like at the beginning of last month, so when I first rolled these eyeshadows in. And I have used this one 10 times, and again we have a pan. This eyeshadow I did again have a dip in already when I rolled it in. It was kind of also one of the reasons why I wanted to work on it, because I already had a big dip in it. I worked on this last year, but I wasn't able to pan on it because I rolled in a cream eyeshadow in one of my projects, so I didn't finish hitting pan on this one. But yeah, I am very, very happy again to have another pan in here. I now have 4 pans, and I do want this palette to start looking more loved. I want to use more of these shadows here. But yeah, I do really like this palette, and I can definitely tell like the quality difference between this one and the Soft Glam. I don't know if it's because Soft Glam is older, or they just have improved the formula with this one, but I really, really love this palette. And I feel like I should get some more use out of it now before we get into spring, because it is more of a cool tone palette, which is something that I use in like end of autumn, winter kind of period, you know. Then for the last eyeshadow that I was working on, I rolled something in for my Huda Beauty Nude Light Obsessions, and I rolled that in for a mainstream brand because I feel like Huda Beauty is at the moment very mainstream and very kind of in the spotlight, so I wanted to pull something in from this palette. I also love this palette and I want to give it more love. And the eyeshadow that I rolled in, it doesn't have any name, but it was the Sixth Shadow, which looks like this. It's a beautiful kind of pink with a gold shift to it, and I used this eyeshadow 12 times in the past month, and there we are today. So we have another pan, which means that I was able to pan on every single eyeshadow in this project, and I'm so happy with that. Again, this one didn't take too long to pan on. 12 uses is not that long, but it is a shimmer shadow. And this, again, the pans are in my Huda Beauty Nude Lights, or like the small line pan palettes, are very shallow. So I knew it was going to be easy to pan on this eyeshadow, and this palette now has 3 pans. It's these 3 here, which is really nice to see. Again, I do love this color story. It's all like all the shades that I rolled in are similar to like this kind of color story. I was really fancying that at the beginning of the year. I would love to roll in more similar shades now, depending on what prompts I get, but I do think I'm going to pick some other things because I've been working on a lot of pinks tones in the beginning of the year, like pinks and purples and stuff. So I think depending on what I roll, I'm going to try to build a new color story that might be a little bit different, just to give me something else to play with. But that is the final eyeshadow, and again, I'm very excited to pan on all of the eyeshadows in this project. So I went ahead and I swatched out all of the eyeshadows that I was working on. So this was my color story before, so you can kind of see what I mean, that I had a lot of pinky, purple kind of tones, and all of them kind of look like they could come from like the Lovelies palette or the Huda Beauty palette, because they are all very kind of similar. But I love this color story. I thought it was very cohesive and it was easy to incorporate these into everyday looks. So, and just to sum up, we have the rose pink shade from Soft Glam. We have Spark from the Book of Magic, the Love Note palette. Next one we have is from Book of Magic, which is Enchanted. Then we have this light kind of cream color shade, which is Fresh from Sultry. And lastly, we have the 6th shade from the Huda Beauty Nude Lights Obsessions palette. So that was my color story again from last month. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my Tiny Decisions app, and I'm going to randomize new eyeshadows to work on. So actually, I'm going to randomize the prompts first, and then I'm going to pick the eyeshadows. And since I have a completely new color story, it's going to be quite difficult again to decide what to roll in, because I'm going to have to start from scratch. I don't have anything to go off of, but we'll see where my creativity takes me. So we're going to go ahead and randomize the first prompt, which is going to be a shadow that you want to pan. Okay, that's amazing. Obviously that's going to be quite nice. Let's see what the second one will be. A shadow that starts with V. Okay, V is not a very common name, I think, but we'll see. Or like, I don't think I have that many letters or eyeshadow starting with V, sorry. So we have a shadow that you want to pan again. Again, you have these prompts in several times, but that would be fine. I guess I will have a good selection of eyeshadows that I want to pan. Let's see what the next one is. It's going to be the 4th eyeshadow. We got a shadow from your least favorite palette. So I already had this one last time, and last time I forgot to add in, like, you know, when you select like prompt that you don't want to select it again. So I'm actually going to skip this one because I did have this last month, and I used, you know, I didn't change the settings until after I picked it. So I'm gonna get a re-roll for that because I don't want to put that prompt in again. I'm not sure if that is in several times, but I just want to skip over it for now. Oh, well, we got shadow from my new least favorite palette again, so I guess we do have it in several times, and that's fine this time because I did skip over last time. So that is the 4th eyeshadow, and then we have Orange Shadow Shimmer. Okay, that is fine. That should be 5, which means that I have my prompts, and all of these are kind of like, you can pick whatever. The only kind of shade I have to go work with is an orange shimmer. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to figure out what I want to pan, and I will be right back. So I am back and I have my new color story. It definitely took longer this time than it did last time to pick my shadows, and I guess I didn't do the best job at not making the color story the same, but it's still different than last time. But I do still love those tones, so I did roll in some more of those, which yeah, it'd be fine. But I mean, it is kind of what I want to work on, and the two prompts that I rolled those into are things that you want to pan. So let's just go through the eyeshadows. So I have my new color story right here. That is my old one's reference. And we're going to start with the first shadow here, which is the first one that I rolled in. That was something that you want to pan. And what I rolled in for that is actually a single eyeshadow, and this is from Terra Moons, and it is the shade Cinnamon Sugar. So this is what this one looks like at the moment. It's a beautiful duochrome. It goes from like a pink base, like a pinky purple base, I don't know if you can pick it up, maybe up there, into like a green shift. And again, it's a beautiful eyeshadow, which is part of the reason why I want to pan this. But additional to that, it is actually a dupe in my collection. I also have the shade, what is it called? It's from Sydney Grace. It's not Milky Way, it's Winter Garden? No, I can't remember now, but it is basically the same shade. I will have the name here, and they are basically dupes. But I love this shadow too much to let go of it at the moment, but I do feel like I should get used out of one of them and try to move it out. And this one is actually my favorite. It's slightly more shimmery than the other one. So I want to use this one first, because why not use my favorite? You know, I should get used out of my favorite eyeshadow anyway. And yeah, this is a beautiful eyeshadow, and I'm very, very excited to use it. With all my eyeshadows in this project, by the way, I do have a goal of 20 uses or pan. So if I don't hit pan before 20 uses, I will roll it out. Unless I'm really close or I want to keep it in, then I will. But that will be like I have a chance to roll it out at 20 uses. So that is again the first eyeshadow. The second eyeshadow was an eyeshadow starting with a V. And I decided to roll in a shade from my Norvina palette from Anastasia. Again, similar tones to the kind of things that I like. I mean, this one actually sums up my color story quite well. But what I decided to roll in, I mean, if you know the palette, you know what shade, because it does start with a V, and that is the shade Volatile. So I did want to roll this one in. I would have maybe wanted to go for something different, but again, V is not really a common letter in my eyeshadow collection, and I did want a matte because I want to at least have 2 months every single month in this project. So this is 1 out of 2. So I did roll this one in, and Volatile is this beautiful dark grey kind of matte. It does have some pink undertones to it, and I do really like it. I feel like it will go nicely to other things that I'm panning. And again, it will probably go nicely with those two shimmers there next to it. So I think this one will be one that is, you know, good to work on. Also, I do love this palette. It's one of my favorite palettes. So I want to again give it some more love. And yeah, again, 20 uses of pan on this eyeshadow. This one's going to take a little bit longer, I think, because it is a matte eyeshadow, and also it's not super powdery. So we'll see how it goes, but that is the next shadow. For the next something that you want to pan, because I did roll that in twice, the panning gods are very kind to me this month. I decided to go for something from my Anastasia Amrezy palette, because I love this palette and I feel like I haven't really used it much recently. I did do no palette behind on this last year, but I did basically just use every single shadow once, and that was it. I think 1988, which is this brown here, was in a project. But apart from that, I haven't used this palette in a long time. So I wanted to pull something in from this palette to work on, and the eyeshadow that I decided to go for is the shade Cupcake right here. Again, this is the type of tone that I'm into at the moment, and I think this is something that will pan out really nicely with the eyeshadows that I'm panning again. I am panning in my palette I have my focus eyeshadows, which is a red and a pink. Like, I'm wearing the red today, so I feel like this one will go nicely with those shadows and also the rest of the eyeshadows that I'm panning. So I decided to go with this one, and it's just a stunning shade. It is, though, very similar to, I mean, it's not the same, but it's quite similar to that purple shimmer that I had last month, Spark, but this one is slightly more neutral leaning. I feel like almost this is a mix between Rose Pink and Sparks, but yeah, that is the next shadow that I'm rolling in, and it comes from my Amrezy palette, like I said. So we'll see how it goes with this one. I'm not too worried about this shadow. It is quite, I don't know, it's a bit of a thicker formula. It's not super crumbly, but I do think I can get through this one relatively quickly. So for the next prompt, again, we had something from my least favorite palette, and I already spoke about my least favorite palette. So we're rolling in my Book of Magic palette again, and the eyeshadow I decided to go with this time around is another matte, and it is the shade Amulet right here. It's this one on the top row here. I think this one is going to be good because it's more of a neutral shade, and it will go a lot with, again, my palette things that I'm panning, and I'm missing like a good transition shade like this in my palette. The one that is in there is very, very orange toned, and I mean this one is also an orange tone matte, but I feel like this is a bit lighter and not as intense, so I think this one will be good to pair with that. And if I want to go for some warmer looks, this one is going to be a good starting point. So that is the next shadow that I'm rolling in, and hopefully I can hit pan on that one, and I will then have 5 pans in here. I think before when I mentioned my pans I didn't see the pan in Vanish, but it's like super tiny small pan there. Maybe I'll try to expand that a little bit this next month because it's so small. But yeah, hopefully I will have pan on this one. I don't know if I'll have pan on it next month, but I'll try. I don't expect to have such a good update again next month. I'm not expecting to pan on every single eyeshadow in this project again, but we'll see how I go. I don't think it's going to be an issue hitting pan on this eyeshadow in general though, and that is the second to last shadow that I'm rolling in. Then lastly we had the Prompt Orange Shimmer, and I decided to go with another single. This is the swatch right there. I don't know how well you can pick it up. It is a duochrome. It goes from orange to a hot kind of pinky red. It's beautiful, and it's definitely like an orange shimmer. It is from the Pastel Roses, and it's the shade Electric Orange, which looks like this. So see that in focus, there you go. So you can see that orange base and hopefully that pinky red shift. It's a beautiful eyeshadow. I want to use this one more. I have used it a little bit, but I want to get some use out of this one. I'm not sure I'll be able to hit pan on this one before 20 uses, but if I don't, at least it will have a massive dip by the end of it. And I think this one is going to be one that is nice to use in more warm tone looks, because again I think this is going to be divided into like 2 looks. I feel like I can use the top 3 together and then the bottom 2 together, but at least then I have a bit more variety than last month. And yeah, that is the final eyeshadow that I'm rolling in. I'm very excited for it, and I'm excited to roll in some singles as well, because I've been in a state before where I'm too scared. I mean, it's not like it's actually frightening, but I'm too scared to pan on my singles because, you know, I feel like they're more special. I want to, like, you know, use them very gently, which I still do. I don't really dig into my eyeshadows, but I can be a bit more focused on my palette eyeshadows and like try to use them in the center so that I hit pan. Whereas with my singles, I try to use them more evenly. You know, I try to not hit pan basically because I cherish them so much. But this year I want to change that. I do want to roll in some more singles into this project this year because I do want to start getting use out of them. I was this close to rolling in one of my clear eyeshadows into this project, and I know that I would have been able to hit pan on it within 20 uses, but I'm not sure if I'm quite there hitting pan on those yet, because they're like, I collect them basically, or not. I mean, it's not, I mean, I do collect them. I have all of the Stained Glass collection from Cleona, but I do love them too. I use them quite a bit, but I like cycling through them, but I haven't hit pan on anything yet. I have a couple of shadows that have pretty good dips in them, but I'm not sure if it will throw it off my palette off if I have like pan in like one shadow of my Cleona eyeshadows, because again I have all of them. But maybe I'll start rotating through them and get some more dips, and once I have dips I'm gonna be more comfortable to pan on some of them as well. So we'll see how it goes in the future. Give me some patience. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I'm happy that I did roll in 2 singles this month. And yeah, again, this is my contour store, just to give you another overview, and this is it compared to last month. So that is it for my Pan Those Eyeshadows update. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I am taking a break this year, by the way, at least for now, to share eyeshadow looks in this project. I feel like I won't do that. I don't know. Let me know if you want me to keep doing that, or if you want to use to insert like pictures while I'm talking about the eyeshadows, although it's hard to do because a lot of times I use several eyeshadows from this project in one look. But let me know what your thoughts are. I just been filming this one for a long time, and I know this video will be quite long anyway, and it would probably add another 5 minutes if I was talking about my looks as well. So let me know what you want me to do. If you're interested in my looks, by the way, I do post it on Instagram. Whenever I share my looks, I always post it on Instagram. And if you have any questions at any point, either in a video or on Instagram with what I'm wearing, feel free to ask me down below. I will always tell you what I was wearing if I can remember it. And yeah, that is it for today. But I really hope you enjoyed this video, and again, make sure to check out Makeup by Laney. She is linked down below, and I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, and I will talk to you in my next video. Bye guys.